Welcome to the FarmBits podcast.
FarmBits is proudly produced by the Nebraska Digital Agriculture Team and hosted by students at the University of Nebraska.
The FarmBits podcast comes to you each week to discuss the trends, the realities, and the value of digital agriculture.
Through interviews with experts, producers, and innovators from across the agriculture industry, we hope that you step away from each episode with new practical knowledge of digital agriculture technology. Hello, FarmBits followers, and welcome to another episode of the FarmBits podcast. I'm Kelsey Swantek.
And I'm Taylor Cross, and we're glad to have you with us as we continue exploring Nebraska Extension.
This week, we're joined by Dean Krull, who has a dual appointment with Nebraska Extension and the Nebraska Natural Resources District as a project coordinator.
Dean showcases his interactions with digital ag through his research experiences, and with 42 years of experience in this position, Dean's seen firsthand the benefits of adopting digital ag technologies.
With that in mind, let's hear from Dean.
Well, thanks for joining us, Dean, today on the FarmBits podcast. If you could go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and where you are today.
Okay, my name's Dean Krull. I got my education at Kearney State College, which later in years merged with the University of Nebraska. Graduated in 1972 with a business administration major, which has nothing to do with agronomy, but I am a farm kid. I live down by Hastings, where I grew up. My title here at Central Platte Natural Resources District really is the project coordinator. That transitioned into that when the South Central Research and Extension Center closed a number of years ago, and I moved my office up here to Central Platte. And I'm assuming and I'm guessing the reason why they hired me because I was a farm kid. So a lot of my knowledge and stuff that college students go through from agronomy, I've learned that in field and things like that. So it's, I mean, I think what really is important here, and that may go to one of the next questions, is being a producer myself. I understand where producers are coming from. I understand the battle they have with, do I invest in this, or so on and so forth. So I can feel for them, and what realistically that's helped me manage this project because I know where they're coming from and think about, how we can move forward in adopting things that cost money and things like that.
So you're kind of unique because you have that dual appointment with the NRD as well as UNL. Can you talk to us a little bit about how that all works and kind of the logistics behind that?
Okay, the kind of the way that all began was when I first started with university. There was a project called the Hull County Water Quality Project, which dealt with nitrates in the groundwater, and we were gonna promote best management practices, whether that's through nitrogen application or irrigation application. So that's kind of how it started. From that, it expanded to, that was like a 3 or 4 year project. And after that was over, Central Platte showed interest on keeping me on to continue on with demonstration education plots throughout their districts. So that's kind of how this all started. They basically fund my project, fund me, even though I am a university employee. The good thing about the dual appointment is, especially now when I'm located in their office, we can discuss things maybe on where the project ought to go, what direction. I can talk to the manager, and if he thinks I'm nuts, he'll tell me I'm nuts. But it's been a good working relationship all these years. So realistically, going back to my when I first come there, it was for a 1-year appointment. So I like to tell everybody that I'm on my 42nd anniversary of my 1-year job. So it's been a good cooperation between us two.
Yeah, it is really neat that you can relate to those farmers in that way. So backing up just a little bit here,
Okay.
previously this season we've talked to a couple extension educators. So can you speak on maybe how your role is different from an extension educator through Nebraska Extension, and also maybe how that interaction with farmers might be different?
I think probably the biggest difference in between my job and an extension educator is I can focus on what we want to do here in Central Platte. I don't have to do a lot of the extra things that, other responsibilities that extension educators have. So I can be more focused on whatever we decide, whatever direction we decide to go and things like that. So I've been around. One good thing is I've been around all this time. I know a lot of producers, and if we come up with some kind of an idea, I kind of know who maybe to contact, just knowing their personality and knowing a lot of times what their interests are, which actually has made my job a lot easier now than in the beginning, because in the beginning I had to rely on a lot of the extension educators at the time to connect me with a producer that might be interested in doing whatever that was.
So, like Taylor said, this is our Nebraska Extension season. Like, we're really focusing on all the great things Nebraska Extension has to offer. So, we know what Nebraska Extension is, but now we're introducing this new weird thing called the Nebraska NRD. What is that? And can you share a little bit about the history behind it?
Okay. Back in 1972, the NRDs were formed. And basically their goal was to protect the state's natural resources. So how they've been able to do that is start programs within their own, within the NRD system, and like us, our connection between UNL and Central Platte, we've been fortunate enough that we can come to the university because of my connection there. Maybe here's what we need, here's what's going on, and vice versa. UNL comes to us also, as far as Central Platte, to begin a new project or whatever that may be. And we'll talk about that a little bit, how that's changed over time here. But in the beginning, it was nitrogen strip plots. University needed infield strip plots, field length, to basically check out their logarithms for nitrogen recommendations. So that's kind of how that all started. I've done I don't know, 400 of them, and I did enough of them that, to be quite honest, I was sick of them. They were boring to me, but that helped out the university as far as fine tuning that logarithm and stuff like that too.
Awesome. Thank you. So, this of course probably changes from day to day, season to season, but can you walk us through what a normal day would look like for you? Whether that's working on projects or connecting with farmers?
I guess it depends on this where we're at within the calendar year. A lot of, let's go post harvest. After that, I'm working up data that we collect And the main focus there is for Central Platte's natural, their newsletters and stuff like that, because that's kind of where that's where I feel like I should get the word out to the producers here in the district. So after a growing season, that's what I'm doing. And in the same time, I'm thinking ahead for the next growing season, lining up producers, talking to like you guys, you guys needed 2 fertigation sites this year. I did that, I think, in a timely manner, and stuff like that. So it's just a kind of an ongoing thing, in the fact that I got to look ahead far enough to continue what we want to demonstrate or research and things like that throughout the year. So wintertime basically is either writing newsletter articles or preparing, presentations and stuff for meetings within the district.
Our focus on the FarmBits podcast is kind of just digital ag and precision ag technologies. So we want to know, what role does digital ag play in your everyday life in all aspects, whether that's your UNL appointment, your NRD appointment, or in your own operation?
Okay, let me start with the UNLs first in Central Platte's. The digital era, the telemetry, stuff like that, has actually made my job simpler. We're able to monitor what's going on within fields, within demonstration plots, and things like that. So I've basically brought in commercial companies on some of this stuff to be able to do that. And I'll just use an example: soil moisture monitoring equipment. We bring in a company to do that for us, and that way we can monitor it over the computer and things like that. If we're looking at application of the advancement in technology there has made everything so much more precise than what it was 30 years ago or 40 years ago. So I would say majority of what we do here at UNL is more precise now than what it used to be. And that can also relate to, I farm also there at home. I mean, that goes ahead and follows through there also. That the technology has been able to make me more precise and things like that there. Transition for my operation at home. I'm not a real big farmer, but I could see a need for advancing into more technical stuff. So I kind of phased it in financially. I mean, I started with a monitor that had the capabilities of, introducing new technologies and stuff, and that would control those things. So it was kind of a 3 or 4 different phases that I've been able to basically get done what I wanted to get done. But yes, there was years that I would have liked to, but money's money. So that whenever you get into technology, we know, and you girls know, that that's not cheap. It's a lot more expensive when you don't farm a lot either. But if you got the desire to do that, to do a good job, that's where in my case, I had to face things in.
Yeah, that's pretty smart, and I like to hear how digital ag plays a role in everyone's unique operations.
Is there like a technology that stands out specifically to you as something that like either really changed the game for you, or something that you just think is really cool that like you knew you had to try that one out for yourself?
At home or
Anywhere.
I mean, I think I can relate to home and at the university, when producers, when we were able to acquire the instrumentation to apply the amount of nitrogen, whether it was anhydrous or liquid, when that technology came and became more precise, I think that was a big jump in advancing towards nitrate, our nitrate issues within the district or anywhere. That was, I think, one of the biggest jumps in the beginning. And I mean, and that's even improved over time with different methods and things like that. So I think that probably was one of the biggest steps, I believe, to apply what you really needed to apply.
So, you talked a little bit about your position with the NRD and your position with Nebraska Extension. Are
Mhm.
you involved at all? And if so, in what way do you play a role in the Nebraska OnFarm Research Network?
I would say, and I'm not trying to brag about myself, but everything I did was on farm my whole career. I was kind of like the embryo of on-farm research, if you want to call it that, because that's what all I've ever done was take things on farm, our research, and things like that. Now, what the big benefit of the on-farm research program is that I mean, there was only one of me. I could only do so much, and with the on-farm research, that covers so many other different topics that producers are interested in. I mean, most of my stuff is more focused on the nitrogen side of it, just because of the ground contamination in the groundwater and things like that. So that has been a big benefit to producers, in that expanded that whole window. I know there's projects like Project Sense, what we're doing with fertigation trials and things like that. That is part of on-farm research, which is okay. That also helps me expand the coverage of results and things like that too. So it's kind of a positive, if you want to call it, marriage, I guess, between what I do and what they do. And besides that, they do some things that I don't have time to do, and that may lead me to different things in the future on what to try with producers.
Very cool. So as project coordinator, what projects do you coordinate? Why are they important? Like, why do we, no offense, but why do we care about the projects that you're working on?
I don't know. I am the only pony in the project. In other words, I choose what we want to do. Whatever it is that I personally, personally as a project coordinator do, I handle all of that. The blessing here is when I have like the fertigation trials or Project Sense, that brings in other UNL people and stuff like that go ahead and handle that, but still does the district a lot of good. As a coordinator, I mean, I guess I just coordinate everything that needs to be done. The blessing that I have being here in Central Platte's office is the communication that I have with the manager and things like that. We've sat down and discussed things like where should we be going? What would do the district the best? Well, and things like that. And that's one good thing. Project Sense, we know that was all sensing devices. We used drone imagery, stuff like that there, but it was always our opinion, I guess. Ground rigs just, they were busy during that period of time. So it was, and didn't think, and I still think that it's not going to cover the acreages like we'd like to see. So that's why we always had a push towards either drone imagery on fertigation or satellite imagery, utilizing that to go ahead and time our fertigations. And I mean, we've gotten there to a degree so far. I'd like to see that expand over the years, and I think it will.
So we know that you interact and work with a lot of farmers on a
Yep.
day-to-day basis. Can you speak on if you interact with any farmers who maybe are fearful for adopting these new technologies on their operations?
There's certain levels, I think, of technology that producers have. Some, none. Some, they start to dabble in it, and a lot of dabbling is basically an economic liability there. Others are more advanced, and I think I see that more and more all the time, is the advancement. I think there's probably a higher percentage of producers that are technology minded now. The more progressive ones will try new things, and that's where I come into play here, is choosing some of those producers to try it. I know I've been asked many times, well, have you ever had to pay out any money because they lost yield or something like that? And to this day, I never have. Majority of them come into trying things are in the fact that, hey, if this has a potential of saving me money, I'm not really worried. And if it works, it works, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. I mean, that's how we got to look at things. If it's not going to work on a producer, if you say, if it's not going to work on my farm, I'm not going to adopt it, no matter what. So I think that's important, to pick and choose who I kind of have a feeling that would advance on some of these new things that are going on. As far as working with somebody that absolutely does nothing, I don't know if I can't remember when that type of producer even happened in the last 10 years, or maybe even longer than that. So
Have you ever had a problem with producers not seeing, like, they implement this new technology that they've been super excited about, or even some that have been worried about implementing that technology and they don't see a change happen as soon as they implement it, and they're like worried that they don't see it happening and it was pointless? Have you ever had that happen, and what do you do about that?
yes, that's happened. And what I do about it is try and convince them that, well, up front, I'm going to say, this is the benefit of this isn't going to happen overnight. Sometimes it's a long-term benefit that you'll see long-term. And a good example of that is with cover crops. We know you aren't going to get a benefit right away. Over time, you will. So that's probably one of the biggest ones that, oh, it didn't do me any good this year. Why would I do it next year? So you got to convince them that this is a commitment, not a just overnight success type thing. If we go look at fertigation stuff, probably happen quicker, in the fact that it's either you need it or you don't. You need to put it on earlier than you do. I mean, this is just examples. You need to put it on earlier than what you've been doing, or things like that. I think that technology will probably take off quicker than a lot of other things. What do you girls think?
Interviewing us now, huh?
I am. Don't you? I think that's going to happen.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of potential and opportunity for all these types of technologies to really advance farms, and it's just a matter of how fast they advance and if farmers are willing to like you said, be patient and take that time to adopt those technologies.
The more that we can present that data to them and things like that to the general public, to the producers, the faster that will either be adopted or not. I mean, there's always good with negative too. I mean, if it doesn't work, you're saving them money. But not everything's always successful, but I truly believe that they're on the fertigation side, this is going to be successful.
So one thing that we've been talking about, it seems like on almost every episode of this Nebraska Extension season, is that Nebraska Extension, and for you as well, the NRD, they're not like trying to sell anything. They're a third party that doesn't care if you buy from company A, B, C, or D. How do you think that benefits you in all of your roles, being able to say, like, I'm not here selling this product for this person, but I think this is something that could benefit you? How do you think that works from your side, as well as how do farmers receive that, not being a salesman?
We're selling a procedure majority of the time.
For free, not really selling.
Yeah,
Great too.
I mean, we're trying to get them to adopt a procedure majority of the time. I'll admit, if there's something out there that's junk that I've had experience with on whatever that may be, I'm all about, and the NRD is all about, is helping the producers. So if let's say there is something that is junk and it doesn't work, dude, or the service is terrible or whatever that may be, what does that do negatively towards us trying to promote a procedure? I still believe that it's important to if they have an idea, and if it's junk, I'm sorry, but I'll tell them it's junk.
I think there's a level of trust that goes with that too.
It
You're
is.
not selling anything, but if you see something really good or something really bad, either way, you can say, like, hey, I've noticed I've had a lot of farmers that have really good luck with this one or not so good luck with
Yes,
this one. So I
that's
might
correct.
recommend you try this one versus this one. But again, you're not making commission off of it. You're not selling it. You're just offering your free advice as to what you think would be best for said producer.
And the reason for that is to have them feel comfortable incorporating whatever that may be in their project, or in their operation. I mean, what negative, a lot of times they'll try something, and if it's junk, they aren't going to go back to anybody else because they don't really know. And I could probably say that service has a lot to do with a lot of the adoption of a lot of these technologies.
Yeah, I think that's a very, very true statement there. So we've talked a lot about maybe like the benefits that we think digital ag and precision technologies can provide to farmers and the whole adoption process. But what do you personally foresee, or what are you most excited for moving forward in the digital ag technology space?
Currently, but this is being worked on. A lot of the different aspects of farming with digital stuff, with digital, this system controls this system controls that. You got to keep track of what's going on with ABC, whatever that may be, different companies, different people that you're working with. And there's companies out there now that's trying to bring all of that together into one spot, one control system. And that I think is going to be huge, especially for the producers that are very tech savvy. They see the benefit of being able to bring all that together. That is in the works from a lot of the implement companies right now. So that I believe is going to be a real benefit. It's going to bring all the data into one location, so you can be, look at it or whatever. I think that's going to be huge.
Very cool. Definitely something to look forward to. Is there anything that we didn't ask or talk about that you want to share before we start wrapping this up?
My advice to anyone that's thinking about whatever that may be, there are ways to look at that. I mean, I'll use my project, for example. I've had a guy that happened this year. We'd like to look at this. Well, I listened to the producers, and if there is a subject or a product or whatever that may be that's kind of falls into what we're looking at, I can set that plot up. A lot of times I have a budget that a lot of times I will not pay them to do it, but I will furnish the product, whatever they may want to try and things like that. So there are avenues there that people, not only just with me, but with other, on-farm research, for example, that can help organize that and help you look at whatever you may want to look at.
Yeah, that's a really good opportunity for those farmers. And I think that relationship that you have with them really encourages them to make that next step. So where can our listeners go to learn more if interested about your position and what you do, if they have any questions after this episode?
Well, I guess one place that they could find, I do believe we have majority of the newsletter articles that I've written for Central Platte newsletter, that's on our website. I'm one, if I don't know nothing about it, I'll tell them, but if I can find out something for them, I will do that. So that's kind of how I've always been. And I'm not afraid to tell them that I don't know nothing about this, but I'll see what I can find out. So
That's awesome. We have a tradition on the FarmBits podcast, and this is always my favorite question of the day because we get so many good answers here. Do you have any advice or words of wisdom for producers in any location that might want to get involved in the extension system, the NRD system, and whether that's in Nebraska or in other states?
don't be afraid to step across the curb. I mean, there's a lot of knowledgeable people out there that can help you, whether that be extension, NRD. There are commercial people out there too that really can help, can answer questions for yourself. Company agronomists a lot of times are a good source, and it seems like a lot of producers are more at ease asking agronomists from whatever company that might be about certain things. I have no problem with that. Just be cautious on whether they're saying this just to sell something or whatever. But a good example, I've experienced a hailstorm at home this year. Never ever had a hailstorm this early. Never have ever replanted everything that we had to do this year. But even though I kind of knew, I brought in agronomists to look at what I should do and took their advice. So it never hurts to ask for help. And I can say one, and I'm going to brag a little bit about our project, is that we're the longest education demonstration project in the United States. And there's been other projects that have kind of followed our footsteps, what we've done here to start up their own. So Central Platte, the university, can feel proud, I believe, in that we're in that position. So, and personally, I can feel that too, because I've been kind of the guy that did all this. So
Thank you very much to Dean Krull for taking the time to join this episode of the FarmBits podcast. It's really cool to see UNL working so closely with the Nebraska NRD to accomplish a common goal. One of my favorite parts of this episode had to be hearing Dean's passion and all his experiences and interactions with farmers.
Yeah, I also think that was really unique, and I really appreciated listening to Dean's path and advancements in his own operation with digital technologies, and how by being a grower himself, he can interact with farmers in that unique, special way. So I hope you enjoyed that episode, and we look forward to sharing another Nebraska Extension story with you next week on FarmBits. Thank you for taking the time to join us today on the FarmBits podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts to be informed about the latest content each week.
We welcome your feedback, so if you have comments or questions for us, please reach out to us over email, on Twitter, or in the reviews section of your favorite podcast platform. Our contact information can be found in the show notes.
We would like to thank Nebraska Extension for their support of this podcast and their commitment to providing high-quality informational material to members of the agricultural community in Nebraska and beyond.
The opinions expressed by the hosts and guests on this podcast are solely their own and do not reflect the views of Nebraska Extension or the University of Nebraska-Lincoln.
We look forward to you joining us next week for another episode of FarmBits.